Since 2006, the Parental Alienation Awareness Organization has marked April 25th as Parental Alienation Awareness Day. The event was founded by Sarvi Emo in Toronto and didn't receive much attention initially. But PAAO Director Roger Van Maris says it didn't take long for the event to pick up steam.
The next year and beyond, nobody could have foreseen how viral this would have gone. I guess there was nobody paying any attention to the issue, and within a year or two, hundreds of countries and states and cities and communities across the world were just, jumping on the bandwagon and trying to get this message out to as many people as they could.
Van Maris said communities across the globe are now proclaiming April 25th to be PAA Day. In 2010, the event was rebranded as Bubbles of Love Day to give the day a gentler message. At noon on April 25th, thousands of people will blow soap bubbles into the air with the goal of raising awareness of children who are alienated from one of their parents.
The primary goal is to raise awareness that every child deserves to be loved by both parents. That is it in a nutshell. The focus has to be on children. Yes, it's horrible that parents are prevented from seeing their children. I was in one of those situations where I didn't see my children for 2 years, and my heart goes out to them, but the focus needs to be on the children. There are people on both sides of the debate that can justify why a parent doesn't deserve to see their child, but I've never come across a single person that can justify why a child doesn't deserve to know and love both parents.
To read more about Bubbles of Love Day, visit bubblesofloveday.com or PAAwarenessday.com. To learn more about the Parental Alienation Awareness Organization, visit PAAwareness.org. You can also find numerous articles on parental alienation on dadsdivorce.com. That'll do it for another episode of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Sean Garrison, editor of dadsdivorce.com. We'll see you next time.
Krights TV, where the
Hello
truth
everyone,
continues.
Richard Farr here with you with another episode of Krights 2. I want to talk today about parental alienation. My belief, honestly, is that those parents that engage in parental alienation, that is the systematic reorganizing children's thought patterns to taking all natural love out of a child towards another parent, should be a criminal offense, and it should be punished criminally. There are so many examples. That is one of the greatest, atrocities of the family court, is allowing parental alienation to continue like they have for 20, 30 years. Parents who engage in alienating their child are a basic form of sociopath. And what needs to happen here is there needs to be a serious campaign mounted against our court system concerning the rights of the non-custodial parent. The situation of where the alienated parent becomes the targeted parent. And basically, as I heard in a video one time, it was like any time there was any thought about the targeted parent, anytime there was any mention, it was basically a slap down to the child. And that is abusive. That is abusive, because what you are making the child, or what the alienating parent is doing, is they are making a child hate one half of themselves. One of the most crucial parts of a child's upbringing are the fact that there are two parents. There's a knowledge of two parents. It takes two to create the one. So it needs to be changed, and it needs to be corrected, and it needs to happen immediately. And one of the reasons why the court system does not enforce against alienators some sort of sanctions and some sort of punishments is because of the fact that the child support system, again, USC 42, here we go, 666, which is the federal statute, that's really the beast. Everybody's got this whole political thing going on. It's the child support agency is a beast. And I will tell you more about that as we go along, but today it's parental alienation. And those parents that are suffering as the targeted parent, it's hard. I mean, it is just so hard. I have a situation to where I know very close to myself of a father that's alienated, and it is just one of the most pathetic situations at all, because the children have ended up in jail. They've ended up with DWIs. They've ended up with all kinds of emotional problems, but they don't think they have any problems. And then if there's ever a problem that's brought up about their own personal situation, the alienating parent places all the blame onto the targeted parent. Now, let's go back to child support and why this all happens this way. There is an effort by the Child Support Enforcement Agency to keep children separated from parents, from a targeted parent, from the parent that is not collecting child support. Therefore, they can turn around and begin to target that parent themselves, the child support system, target that parent and begin to put gross punitive measures against that parent to increase the situation of alienation, therefore degrading the parent that is the rejected parent. Now, we're going to be going into this much deeper as time goes on. I put up a video that was done not too long ago. It's called Waiting. You should watch that video, check it out. Very, very interesting. You hear about parental alienation from the child side. You hear about parental alienation from a professional, from a judge. It's a very, very good video, and you should check that out. Now, you know, no longer is there any one kind of family. And it's not like the old greeting card situation. There's the set of child support laws and the child support system, and it covers 17 million children, which is about a quarter of them. And it's not working. I talk again about undistributed collected funds. There's money that the child support enforcement agencies are stealing from our children, and they're putting it into accounts called non-collected undistributable funds. And what they're doing with that is they have all written laws, all the states have written laws to where in as little as 1 year, any money that is in an undistributed amount can be taken by the state and used and given back to the child support agency to continue their atrocities. Family court is a ruse. Family court is only about the attorneys. It's only about the judges feeling like they are gods and playing agendas. And the agenda is the feminist movement, which the grand experiment of running father out of the home has failed. It has failed miserably. And it's all because of this feminist movement that is surrounded about keeping father out, that the only gloryhood in America is motherhood. But many of our children grow up now without a father and end up with situations to where they have no respect for authority. They have no respect for the rule of law. And many of those children find themselves in deep legal troubles, as well as many of those children end up coming back home to mom. And the very thing that mom wanted to do was to grow them up and get them out of the house so she could go off and do whatever she wanted to, has completely backfired on mom. And, you know, I've even had women tell me that we gave our child a pass. We didn't correct our child. We didn't do the right thing by growing our child up to understand responsibility, to understand the value of money, to understand their own personal value and their relationship with both the parents. This mistake, this grand experiment has failed. And now's the time to make some changes. You know, I, back a number of years ago, was did a lot of speaking, did a lot of protesting. And I really believe that's where we need to get again. And many of the people inside the city halls and inside the courtrooms, you know, they talk about how they laugh when people are outside protesting on these issues. Where we need to protest is we need to get a concerted effort to the media. And the infighting needs to stop among the groups. You have to understand, back 9 years ago, there were a number of very, very influential groups that had a chance to change all of this, but it was busted. The chance was busted, and you are where you are right now with no advances, no movements, no real changes in the family court system because of the infighting that was going on. And it was many groups trying to make all of themselves the hero, when it's kind of like the situation of where I worked and when I worked for Disney. It's like, if you look there, you never know the names of the people that work on the movies, that work in the rides, that work behind the scenes in Imagineering or in Disney Images or at Disney Ideas. You just don't know the people that do all the special stuff behind the scenes, because there's one name that matters, and that name is Walt Disney. So that's what we've got to get. But the problem is who is going to take that mantle? Now, I don't believe it should be any one person. I believe it should be the topic itself. And all of the groups that are for that topic stand together, stand united, share information, share discussions with each other, sharing. That is what we need to do. We need to start comparing notes. We need to start sharing. And I know that there is so much pain out there that sometimes it's almost unimaginable of how you can even make it into the next day. I will share something with you here. Is I was alienated against myself for 15 years. My ex took my children off into a cult church, and I didn't get to see them for many, many years. Many custody violations, many visitations were violated. And for 15 years, I went to where, didn't get a phone call for Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, not even a "et you." So I understand. I understand greater than you know. And what you need to remember is in these times that the alienation is at its apex, the parent that is being alienated, you need to stay strong. You need to hang into the game, and you need to be there, because the children one day will come searching for the alienated parent, the targeted parent. And it will take a number of years before you, as the targeted parent, will be able to push away the rushes of memories of all that you've lost during all of those years. But it will be a matter of rebuilding new memories and adding to the memories. And slowly the memories of all those lost years will disappear and the new memories will come in. So this is what I have to say about parental alienation, is that it should be a punishable offense. There should be guidelines, there should be measurable events, and the court should be willing to hear this immediately. And the only reason that this is not happening is because of the child support enforcement system. It's better to keep the parents at conflict and make one parent believe that the other parent is not doing the right thing, when actually the child support agency is stealing the money. They're just flat stealing the money. And they're all about the collection of the child support that they have on their records, because that's their paychecks from the states, from the federal government. Child support is not about helping our children. It's about the people inside the Child Support Enforcement Agency helping themselves. And the privatized people inside the Child Support Agency, there's one agency right now that's out there. I'm not going to put them by name, but I will. The time will come. And you look at their website, and it's all, you see their president getting onto a Learjet. And you see their president doing this, and you see their president of their company doing other, extravagant things. But when it really comes down to it, this very child support agency has been caught for taking files when they did not have jurisdiction. And when I say taking files, is what they would do is ram through the court system, whether they had jurisdiction or not, child support orders on a non-custodial parent to where there might be another child support order in another state, but they're just refusing to gain jurisdiction on it. And I think you're going to hear more about this. I think there's a couple of major lawsuits that are getting ready to come down towards a couple of child support agencies. But we'll keep you up on that. And I would like to invite you to call, to email. We have a new email address now. It will be the one that we will work from. It's krights2@richarfarr.com. Send me any information you want. Let's get together. Let's talk on the air together, and let's get this information out. It's going to be very, very important. We can push this thing over the edge. We can make it work. We can get changes. I guess now's the time for me to say subscribe if you like what we're talking about, where we're going to go. All you have to do is call me, and we'll make arrangements to do a show together, and let's get the word out. Let's get the word out. This is about you, the non-custodial parent. Until next time, the truth continues.
Krights TV, where the truth continues.
We've learned about alienated children and favored parents, but what about rejected parents? How does it feel to be Plutoed, to lose your family and your role as a parent?
Rejected parents feel devastated when their children refuse to spend time with them, stop expressing affection and respect for them. They haven't been prepared for this level of rejection, and they're stunned by it. Oftentimes they're embarrassed, and they worry that others are going to think, gee, you must have done something really bad if your kids don't want to spend time with you. People stop them on the street and ask how their children are doing, and rejected parents don't know because they are not being kept included in the children's activities. And they're very embarrassed. They don't know what to say. They usually try to change the subject. It's psychologically devastating to a parent to have the children that you loved and raised want to have nothing to do with you.
If alienation has been a problem in your family, the rejected parent probably feels most ashamed when ignored or shunned in front of others, such as at school or sports events. When people ask about their children, rejected parents often feel terribly embarrassed, even ashamed. They worry that others secretly think, there must be more to the story. I wonder what they did wrong to deserve their children's disrespect. Parents who have been rejected may begin to doubt themselves. They might ask, did I do something wrong? Maybe I'm not such a good parent.
It's very sad for a rejected parent when they see other parents enjoying their children, because it reminds them of all that they're missing out on. They feel like shadows, ignored. They feel shunned by their children, and it's humiliating to them.
If one of your parents is rejected, they're probably trying to figure out how to deal with this. Should I give up? Should I be tough? Walking away feels wrong, even though this might create peace. Hanging in there seems right, but maybe the emotional cost to you and them is just too much to bear. As a result, and you may have noticed this, these parents often act inconsistently. Sometimes they withdraw and seem passive and uninterested in being with you. Other times they try hard to be involved, maybe even going to court, calling the police, or insisting that everyone see a therapist. It may seem like they do too much or too little, which might make them seem unreliable.
In some families, after repeated attempts to reconnect with the children, a rejected parent may get so discouraged that they enter into a state that we call learned helplessness. All their attempts to solve the problems, all their attempts to reach out to their children fail, and they don't know what else to do, and they begin feeling utterly helpless to change the situation. They may feel that they have no alternative but to withdraw from the children, to stop trying. Unfortunately, for some children, when their rejected parent stops trying to see them, the children actually feel abandoned by that parent because they've never really lost the love they felt for that parent. And the children may then think, gee, maybe that parent doesn't deserve our love if he wouldn't hang in there and continue to try to see us. They may misunderstand the parent's withdrawal not as a sign that the parent just didn't know what else to do and felt helpless to solve the problem. They may misunderstand and think that that's a sign that the parent doesn't love them enough. In some situations, particularly when there have been multiple attempts to heal the relationship between children and the rejected parent, and these attempts all fail, there may be no better alternative than to at least accept the situation as it is and temporarily stop trying to heal, stop trying to reconnect, with the hope that sometime in the future the time will be right for the children to recover their love and restore a positive relationship with the parent.
Rejected parents often ask others for advice on how to manage this difficult situation. Sometimes well-meaning friends and relatives encourage parents to respond with anger. You need to teach your ex a lesson, or how dare your children treat you like that? This can lead parents to overreact in ways that don't help. If your parent responds this way, it might drive you further away rather than make you want to repair the relationship. In fact, rejected parents sometimes need to be reminded that all kids complain about their parents from time to time. Just because a child is moody or negative doesn't automatically mean that the child is becoming alienated. Rejected parents seek advice from professionals, such as lawyers and psychologists.
Rejected parents are often told that the best way to handle their children's rejection is to allow a cooling off period, allow the children to withdraw for a while, wait for the right time to come when the children will reach out to reconnect with you. But unfortunately, in many families, the right time never comes. And what began as an alienation, where the children had negative attitudes about the parent, becomes a total estrangement where the children lose all contact with that parent. One of the most important things for a rejected parent is to try to stay in touch with the children. Try to maintain contact. Now, this may mean having to develop a thick skin, because when the children are with you, they may treat you with contempt and with disrespect. But we found that it's easier to help children recover a positive relationship if they spend time with you and if they get to see that the rejected parent still loves them and is not giving up.
So what can rejected parents do? In the words of Winston Churchill, never, never, never give up. Not giving up, though, requires persistence and understanding, and your parents may not have a lot of that left if they've been rejected over and over. When they lose their patience, and nearly every parent does from time to time, parents make mistakes. The favored parent might exaggerate these mistakes to make it seem like the rejected parent always acts impatiently, or that this is why the children don't want to spend time with the parent.
When children treat a parent so disrespectfully, most often the parent is not at all prepared to deal with that effectively, and they react by overreacting. They get very angry, they lose their temper, they ask the children, "How dare you speak to me that way?" But they can frighten the children when they do that, and then the children can use that as another reason for rejecting the parent, because the parent actually has yelled at them, has been aggressive, and maybe scared the children. In other cases, rejected parents will tell the children, "If you don't enjoy spending time with me, why don't you leave this home and come back when you can be more positive?" And unfortunately, the children may use that as a reason not to see the parent. They'll throw those words back to the parent. "Well, you said you didn't want to see us." And what begins as a parent's effort to improve the relationship and solve the problem can really be the beginning of the end of the relationship. It's very important that rejected parents avoid overreacting to their children and avoid rejecting their children. This means they've got to develop a thick skin, and they've got to develop patience to tolerate what is very disrespectful and contemptuous behavior without losing their temper.
If your parent overreacts, you might worry that this will happen all the time. Or you might think that your attitude finally made your parent stop loving you. Secretly, you might even worry that you are no longer someone who is worth caring about. Another common mistake rejected parents make is to lecture about right and wrong, fair and unfair. While the lesson might be true, lectures rarely work. The more they try to tune you in, the more you try to tune them out. If you've been rejecting a parent, you may be frustrated when it seems like they minimize your concerns and complaints. A rejected parent might say, "Oh, you don't really feel that way," or "That's just your other parent talking, those aren't your real feelings." This too doesn't work. It could make you feel that your parent doesn't care or doesn't take you seriously. If you and a parent are alienated from one another or becoming alienated, it is certainly important to talk about what's going on. But one mistake that rejected parents make is to try to show their concern by asking a lot of questions. This often backfires rather than helps. If you've experienced this, the questions are likely to make you feel interrogated rather than cared about. And it may feel like their questions imply criticism, not at all what your parent wants you to feel. Another mistake that some rejected parents make is to counter all the bad-mouthing by saying bad things about the other one. This makes children feel bad and only makes things worse. But rejected parents shouldn't be reluctant to set the record straight when children say things that are wrong or unfair. Your children need help to deal with complaints they hear about you. For instance, a child says, "Mommy says you didn't spend much time with us and we never had any fun together." You can respond, "Mommy's mistaken." Remind the children of specific things you've done for them and with them. Bring out family videos and photos showing better times together.
When a rejected parent overreacts to the children, it's very important for the parent to acknowledge that they made a mistake and to apologize for it. It can be very difficult for a rejected parent to do that, though, because they feel they've been treated so unfairly. The children have been so disrespectful and treated them with such utter contempt that the rejected parent has a hard time acknowledging that he or she contributed to the children's conflict. But it's important that they acknowledge their mistake and take responsibility for it.
We've already said that rejected parents should never give up. Their children are worth fighting for. But what else can they do to help? We'll have more to say about this later in the program, but here are a few tips. First and foremost, rejected parents should remember that their children are victims. They didn't want this mess, they just got caught in it, and are doing their best to cope with something they don't fully understand. Second, rejected parents should hold back from arguing and criticizing when their angry children invite them to argue and criticize. It's important to remember that being in a relationship is more important than being right. Rejected parents need to develop a thick skin to withstand all the hurtful things their children say and do. Third, rejected parents should watch and wait for unexpected opportunities to help their children. Big school projects or medical problems offer opportunities to show interest, caring, and concern. When rejected parents make mistakes, they're acting like all parents do from time to time. Even parents who aren't rejected make some of these mistakes, especially when they're stressed. We hope your parents will learn from this program to avoid these traps. But keep in mind that parents are more than just their mistakes. Maybe it's time to cut them some slack.
You are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
Hello, I'm Dr. Craig Childress. Thank you for joining me for this series of YouTube videos. In this video series, I'm talking to you, the targeted parent, the child's authentic parent, regarding our efforts to rescue and recover your children from the psychological and developmental child abuse that's parental alienation. Let me begin by explaining the nature of the problem you're facing, and then I'll explain the solution. Your problem is twofold. First, and most importantly, you cannot protect your children. Until we can protect your child, we can't ask your child to expose his or her vulnerability, his or her authenticity, to the vicious retaliation that's sure to follow from the narcissistic borderline parent, from your ex. If your child ever exposes his or her authentic love for you, if your child shows any love for you, or simply doesn't reject you completely enough, with enough display of anxious fearfulness or enough angry venom, then your child will face a withering psychological retaliation from the narcissistic borderline parent, from your ex. Your child is being held as a psychological hostage. They're being forced to say and do things that are contrary to their authenticity. Unless we can first rescue your children, unless we can first protect your children, we can't ask them to reveal their authenticity to the psychological brutality of the narcissistic borderline parent. And their hostage taker, the narcissistic borderline parent, is more powerful than you are. They're able to completely disempower you. You're made helpless. You're not able to rescue your children from them. So your child must do whatever he or she must do in order to survive in the dangerous psychological world in which they must live. You cannot rescue them. You're powerless to rescue them. So they must do what they must. They must reject you in order to survive psychologically in the dangerous world in which they've been abandoned. Parental alienation is not a child custody issue. Oh no, it's a child protection issue. Until we can protect your children, we cannot ask them to reveal their authenticity and the authenticity of their love for you. It's too dangerous for them in the hostage world in which they live. We must first protect your child. This isn't a battle against parental alienation. This is a battle for your children. This is a fight to protect your children, to rescue your children. I'm often asked by parents, what can I do to restore my relationship with my child? But that's the wrong question, and it portrays that you don't really understand the nature of the problem. If your child shows their authentic love for you, if your child doesn't reject you with sufficient display, they'll face a withering psychological retaliation from your ex, from the narcissistic borderline parent. You're essentially asking me, Dr. Childress, help me to more fully expose my child to their psychological child abuse. I won't help you do that. We must first protect your children. That's our first obligation. Then and only then can we ask your children to become authentic once more. Only when we're able to protect your children can we ask them to show their love for you. The first obligation of an authentic parent is to protect your children. Your children are being held hostage, and they're being psychologically abused. You must rescue your children from their emotional and psychological abuse. But you can't. You cannot protect your children, and that's your first problem. But why can't you protect your children? You love your children dearly. You want to protect them. You're fighting to protect them. But you can't. Why not? Because the systems that should be your allies in protecting your children, the mental health system and the legal system, have abandoned you. They're broken systems. Without them, you don't have enough power to protect your children, to rescue your children from psychological abuse. That's your second problem. You're powerless to protect your children because the systems you need to enact that protection have failed you. Chief among these systems is the mental health system. It's the mental health system that should recognize the pathology. That's our job. It's the mental health system that should recognize the psychological child abuse. But they haven't. The mental health system has abandoned you and your children to their abuse, and that's unconscionable. In order to protect your children, you'll also need the power of the legal system in order to enact the rescue of your children from their hostage taker. Only the legal system has the power to order the rescue of your children. But the legal system has also failed you. It bleeds you of money, but to no avail. It too abandons your children to their abuse. Without the support of the mental health and legal systems, you don't have the power to protect your children from their emotional and psychological abuse. And if you cannot protect your children, you cannot recover your children's authenticity. Your children must sacrifice their authenticity to the narcissistic borderline parent in order to psychologically survive with the pathology of this parent. In order to solve parental alienation, you must first be able to protect your children. Parental alienation is first and foremost a child protection issue. In order to protect your children, you must have the support of the mental health and legal systems. Without their support, there's nothing you can do. Without the support of the mental health and legal systems, you are powerless to protect your children. And if you're powerless to protect your children, then your children must do what they must in order to survive in the psychologically dangerous world in which they've been abandoned. The solution is that we must fix the broken systems so that you are empowered to be able to protect your children. Once you have the power to protect your children, once you're able to rescue your children from their psychological and emotional abuse, then, and only then, can we recover your children's authenticity. That's why you're all in this together. We cannot solve this for any one family unless we solve it for all families. We first need to fix the systems that disempower you from protecting your children. We must first reclaim the mental health system as your ally in fighting the pathology, and then use the power of this new ally to obtain from the legal system the protection your children need. As long as the mental health system abandons you and your children, you'll have no power in the legal system. If you have no power, you'll be unable to protect your children. And if you cannot protect your children, then you cannot ask them to reveal their authentic love for you. If they reveal their authentic love for you, their hostage taker will exact a terrible revenge on them. If you ask your children to reveal their love for you, yet you cannot protect them, then you are simply exposing them more fully to their abuser. You must first protect your children, and you cannot do this alone. You alone cannot change the mental health system. You wait for someone to rescue you, as your children wait for someone to rescue them, but no one comes. Why doesn't anyone come to rescue you? Which is the same question your children are asking. Why doesn't anyone come to rescue them? You must come to rescue your children. But how can you rescue your children? You're just one person alone and powerless against the systems that won't listen, won't act. Nonsense. You are more powerful than you know, but not alone. We cannot rescue your children, your family, if we do not fix the mental health response to parental alienation. And when we fix the mental health response, we'll fix it for all children, for all families. We cannot rescue your individual child until we rescue all of the children. You're all in this together. There is your power. Don't ask me, what can I do to regain my child's love? Ask me instead, what can we do to protect our children? For 7 years, I've worked for you and your children towards this day. I've forged for you a tool, a way, a weapon to use in the fight for the recovery and rescue of your children, to protect your children. I'm not your warrior. I'm your weapon. But don't look for someone to rescue you, because then you're helpless. Then you're a victim. No. With the right weapon and proper strategy, you're strong enough and powerful enough to rescue your children from their abuse. Are you kidding me? You're fighting for your children. You are fierce and determined. You are powerful when you come together. In this video series, I'll describe for you the weapon you have available to you in reclaiming your children. And I'll describe for you the strategy you can use to recover mental health as your ally, so that you can then protect your children and recover your authentic children, all of your children. Because only if we rescue and recover all of your children will we be able to rescue and recover your specific child. You must understand this, and this is critical. We're all in this together. We cannot solve parental alienation in one case for any one specific child or any one specific family unless we solve parental alienation for all children and all families. And when we solve it for all families, we solve it for your specific family, for your specific child. And this is important too. You cannot wait for someone to rescue you. You're not a victim who needs to be rescued. You are the child's authentic parent who needs to rescue your child. You're not a victim in need of being rescued. You're the hero who will do the rescuing. You are fierce and determined and powerful. All you need is the right weapon and the right strategy, and you are an unstoppable force. You are fighting for your children. And there's no more powerful force on this planet than an authentic parent who is fighting for your children. You are unstoppable. All you need is the right weapon and the right strategy. And that's what I'm going to give you in this series of videos. The coming battle is to recover mental health. Once mental health is your ally, we'll turn next to the legal system to recover your power to protect your children. When mental health speaks with a single voice, the legal system will be able to act with the decisive clarity necessary to protect your children. Once we're able to protect your children, then we can recover your children's authenticity. Then and only then can we recover your children's authentic love for you. And in truth, that last part's easy. Once we're able to protect your children, recovering their authentic love for you, oh, that's the easy part. Believe me, we've got that totally covered. But first, you must protect your children. This isn't a battle against parental alienation. This is a battle to protect your children. This isn't a battle against parental alienation. This is a battle for your children. This is a battle to protect and rescue your children. And in this battle, you are not a victim who is in need of being rescued. Oh no, you are a fierce and determined hero, the child's authentic parent who is going to rescue your children from their psychological abuse by the other parent. It's time to find your power and to engage this battle to protect and rescue your children. It's time to get your children back. Follow me to the next video.
You are watching Krights TV, where the truth continues.
Hi, Richard Farr here with you. Another installment of Krights 2. And on the phone with me, I have Ray Loustenslager. I'll get it right here sooner or later. And he's got a case that he was recently talking about, and thought we'd give him connect and hook up with this. And we're trying our first interview here on the new Krights 2. So Ray, how's it going today?
Oh, wild and crazy. We've got big cash parade to get out today. I got court hearing going on down southern Ohio, and actually got some good news out of that one. Today's been a busy morning already, and looking forward to some additional conversations that are going to come out of what's already happened today.
Well, what went on? Why don't you tell me what went on with this case? What, the father was the stay-at-home parent. They have a son that had a medical condition, and things went wrong after 11 years. Fill me in.
That's it. These two were never married.
Okay.
Okay, which the presumption in law is that if parents are not married, that full custody is to the mother.
Okay.
Now,
Tender years doctrine, right?
We jokingly, refer to it as the baby mama rule.
Right.
you know, look, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Hate to tell you this, but this is what it is. Okay? There's not a thing you're going to do to get around it. This is the way the law is written. I have had the opportunity to sit down, and I actually got questioned about it by some state reps, and the Ohio Fatherhood Commission, they were actually wrong. Well, somebody suggested that we get rid of it. Well, we can't.
No, and there's been many attempts to change that in the custody, but there's just too much money to be made off of mama having custody and alienating dad.
Well, it actually, when you break it down, if you get rid of it, it actually ends up costing the state more money than anything, because technically, if you don't have that presumption, like a never married father cannot prove that the child came from his body.
They won't allow paternity tests to allow that to be.
You have to. That's the first of the steps that you have to do.
Okay.
But at the moment of birth, okay.
Right.
Only the mother can prove and be witness to the fact that the child is of that she is a parent. And it's, you know, and I say this to guys: look at your equipment.
Oh yeah. You know what would be an interesting thing is if we could get it started to where paternity was tested at birth. To where
you know, we've discussed that.
Yeah, paternity established at birth.
But there's a liberty interest problem there.
Now, who does the liberty interest? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
There's a liberty interest problem there, in that means that you have to, even for marrieds, everybody has to give up their DNA.
Right.
If you think that I want the government to have my DNA,
yeah,
absolutely not. So there's a lot of little things that all fall into all.
It becomes complicated like everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And they make it complicated.
In a lot of ways it does, but you have to understand every little twist of the law and what happens. If you do one thing, what happens here?
Right.
What happens there?
The collateral repercussion and damages collaterally.
Yeah. And, you know, you can't just... This is where so many... If you don't understand everything that's going to happen, this is where so many things get screwed up in law.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, or when somebody's trying to get a law changed, this is where problems come in.
You know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
But so you have to take all these steps through. And I you know, the conversation I had to explain the repercussions of getting rid of the quote-unquote baby mama rule to a bunch of state reps, and, you know, put a pretty good paper together on it, and just exactly what would happen, because you get rid of it, now the child is born, and the child has no parents, and the only parent the child has at that point is the state. So the state has to take custody of a child.
And there goes Hillary Clinton's, a community raises a child.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. It's so amazing how many problems that are established within the black families and within the child support and child custody issues, how much Hillary Clinton was involved in absolutely zeroing dads out in any part of that.
Well, yeah, it's that Democrat principle of, we want to take over your family.
Right.
Okay, we want to control every aspect.
Right.
Of everything. Okay.
Oh yeah. You know, even the black families, they don't understand that it was the Clintons that put in the no father in the house rule, which pitted thousands, hundreds of thousands of black fathers against black mothers. In order to receive welfare, there could not be a man in the house. So there go, kick father out of the house, and that's why we have the situation we have with so many single mothers. But the whole single mother thing is kind of an undue badge of honor, I guess, if you could say. But
well, it has unfortunately become that.
Yes.
Okay, and it's that custody and control.
Yep.
But if you really want to take the problem back, and we talked about this the last time we were on the phone together.
Right.
If you take the true problem back, it wasn't Clinton's.
Okay, move me back.
It was LBJ.
And explain that to me. I understand what you're talking about. Explain that to me, and then we'll build up that history into that.
Okay. If you have to follow government policies, and you have to follow legislative efforts that have gone through, and you're going to hear some coarse language.
Don't make it too coarse.
But
we want to keep this as PG as possible.
The Republicans pushed the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
LBJ had to sign that because, even though he didn't want to, because there were enough votes present to override his veto in the Senate. He'd have been overridden. He'd have looked like an idiot.
Yeah.
And he knew that.
Yep.
So he had to sign it. But the comment that came out of his mouth, and it shows up on the LBJ presidential tapes, was, "I will have those niggers voting Democrat for the next 100 years."
Yeah. You know what's really interesting is the blacks today, they don't understand a lot of the history that went into all of this setup. You know, I was watching a video the other day, astonished to see that the KKK supports the Democratic Party.
Oh, they always have.
They always have. And so here they are, you know, one word that somebody from the KKK says they like Donald Trump, and they completely whitewash over the issue that the KKK has supported the Democratic Party, and the KKK supports Hillary Clinton, the very number one enemy to fathers, Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And actually, she is an enemy to family.
Hillary's book, it takes a village to raise a child. Wasn't talking about community involvement. It was talking about
state
government.
Yep, state involvement. Yeah, but she.
And
go ahead.
And everybody talks about the Affordable
Care Act.
Health Care Act. You know, commonly referred to as Obamacare.
Right.
Okay. The supposed free health care.
Keep your doctor. Keep your health plan.
Yeah. Well, there was a section missed in that.
And what was
by
that?
A lot of people.
What was that?
That there's a section written into that actually allows them to walk into your house and take over.
Yes.
Everything.
Exactly. Exactly. To walk in your house, take over, and charge you for having soda in your refrigerators.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
No call on you, no nothing. Just walk in, take over.
Yep, here we are.
And you have to, when you look at policies in that, you always have to go back to, you've got to keep tracing things back.
Exactly.
Okay, if this didn't happen, this didn't happen. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Okay. You know what? I'll go back and and if Lincoln hadn't signed the Emancipation Proclamation,
Okay.
he signed that because Congress was afraid that the Civil War was ending.
Uh-huh.
The fear was that they would not be able to abolish slavery.
Uh-huh.
So by signing that executive order, he took the heat off of Congress.
Right.
That then became the 13th Amendment.
Yep.
If Congress had done their job and passed the law,
Uh-huh.
13th Amendment never would have happened. Never would have happened. Would not have been necessary. The 14th Amendment, therefore, would have never been necessary.
Right.
You got these things that all fall in place.
Yep.
You know, and you have to understand history and government policies, and just take those timelines and break them down.
Yeah.
You know, all the way through.
Yep.
And you boom, boom. Well, if this hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. If this hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. You know, and,
Yep.
you know, things like that. And people do not, they don't understand history.
They don't.
And
And they're doomed to repeat it.
understand
Yeah, people don't understand history, and they're doomed to repeat it. And that's where we are right now today. We are in a doom to repeat history. You know, when you look at what's going on with everything in the world today, and you go back and look at the beginning of World War II, you start seeing the same patterns roll in. And it's the same thing with all the things that are going down, is that we are not learning by history. You know, the great experiment of kicking Dad out of the house didn't work. And now we've got a whole slew of kids who are living at home at age 25, 30, 35 because they don't know how to get out and how to go because they kicked Dad out of the house. He never could give them the help and responsibility, instill that responsibility in them. And many of the kids are just loose cannons. Hey, Ray, I am at the end of my time right now, but we'll get right back, okay?
You got it. We'll talk later.
All right. You are listening.
We got work to do, kid.
We do, man. We do. And we'll be on top of it. We are Krights Radio 2, and we have just begun. We are going to get these subjects, and we're going to get them in front of you, and we're going to try to see what we can do this time around. So stay with us. We'll be right back. And subscribe. Thanks.
Over the next year, the National Parents Organization will be conducting a first-of-its-kind study of the child support policies in the United States from the point of view of the entire family. Ned Holstein, founder and executive director of the NPO, says that until now, the vast majority of research devoted to this topic has focused only on the well-being of the custodial parent. The first aspect of the child support system that the study will examine is the child support guidelines, which vary from state to state, and Holstein says were not written with the best interest of the child in mind.
So the first thing people need to know about the child support guidelines in most of the states is that they were actually written by women's advocates and inside lawyers. They were not written by child advocates. And as a result of this, the child support guidelines in many states are far, far too high. In fact, several distinguished economists with academic positions have recently looked at child support guidelines for the first time from that point of view and concluded that in many states, they are 2 to 3 times higher than what it actually costs to raise a child.
Holstein says the project will take at least a year to finish because of its broad range. Once it's complete, the public should have a much higher degree of transparency regarding how the child support system operates.
We're going to start by looking at issues as to who writes child support guidelines, and is it in fact people who actually know anything about economics, who know anything about children, who know anything about child support? Are they people who are truly interested in the best interest of children, or are they actually interested in other agendas? Because in many cases they are written by insider attorneys and also advocates for women who have their own axes to grind and are not purely interested in the best interest of the child.
To read more about the study, visit the NPO website at nationalparentsorganization.org. You can also find many articles on a number of child support issues affecting divorced dads on dadsdivorce.com. That'll do it for another episode of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Sean Garrison, editor of dadsdivorce.com. Thank you for watching.